this way. Oh, hey guys, it's Tango Oscar Mike, and winter field day is over. I'm going to show you some video that I shot during winter field day. I didn't shoot a lot of video from contacts and other stuff, just because it's winter field day. You're making a ton of contacts. I was using the headset, and the audio recorder that I had hooked up to the radio was causing some RF interference, so I didn't want to use it. I want my signal to be as clean as possible, so I didn't use it. So there's really not a lot of contacts. It's just me dealing with the cold and the outdoor extreme. So watch till the end of the video, and I'm going to do a recap after I'm done getting this back together, and show you and or talk about some of the issues I ran into because of the cold. The temperature here dropped down to 3 degrees at night. It was about 6 degrees when I was out, but with the wind chill it was a little bit more. But I ran into all kinds of issues with the cold this year. This is a fluke for me for winter field day. Usually we don't even have snow, or if we do, it's like an inch or two at the most. So it's been kind of crazy this year. And my winter field day definitely reflected that. So stick around to the end. Hey folks, it's Tango Oscar Mike, and it is winter field day. It is 1:30, so I have a half hour before the event starts. I was doing some other projects in the house this morning. I have to clear an area for my shelter, and I think I'm going to do it up here right underneath this big tree, because I'm probably going to use that tree to throw one of my antennas up in. So I'm going to clear this area out over here, shovel that little flat spot there, and just set my shelter up right there. I could pretty much do it anywhere in the yard I wanted to, but that's a nice little flat area. It's a little bit flatter than some of the others. My whole yard sloped. There's not a flat area on the yard. I could set up in this high tunnel if I wanted to be honest. But I'm going to set up a shelter up here, so I need to clear an area. My tarp is 10 by 10, and I'm going to make a nice little shelter and pin it down. I'm kind of using this as my staging area. I have my backpack completely loaded up because I'm carrying stuff that I normally wouldn't carry. My laptop for contesting, my 12 amp hour battery. I've got my throw line, some extra antennas, some extra coax. My little buddy heater, which will be crucial for being out here. We actually had wind chill advisories today. I think it's this morning it was 3 degrees, and it's gone up a little bit since then, so it's a little bit warmer. But I do need to get the shelter going. That's probably the key thing in any situation. So I'm going to work on clearing the spot with my snow shovel here and get my shelter up, and then we'll go from there. Well, here's my shelter. I got it set up, but I made a fatal mistake. I made the mistake of lighting my little buddy heater and then trying to tension some of the lines on my tarp, and I pulled the line, and look what happened. It dipped down and touched the buddy heater and melted a hole in my tarp. That's what you get when you use nylon tarps. I know everybody says to use canvas, but I just shouldn't have lit the heater until it was all set up and good. I just have a trekking pole holding the open so I can get in and out. But once I'm in there, I can lower this down and fold that flap over, and it totally seals off the inside. So that shouldn't be a problem. That's how it will work once I'm in here. It does make the opening a little narrow, but in here it'll be a lot more comfy. Like I can still, the wind's still blowing in here right now, but once I seal this all off, that won't happen anymore, and it will be pretty cozy in here. I've got my shelter set up. I'm having trouble with my little buddy heater, which I've never had trouble with before. But it is very cold. I didn't take the bottles in the house last night, and I'm having a problem with pressure. So I think it's because the bottle's cold. I have one bottle in my inside my coat right here, trying to warm it up with my body heat. So I'm hoping I can warm it up a little bit and I can get some heat in here. It's really not too bad. It's 25 degrees outside, and I'm out of the wind, which is the big thing. There are gaps underneath the tarp, but that's okay. A little ventilation is good, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, it's not. I don't have a tank on it right now, but I'm just not getting pressure out of the tank. So I'm going to start. I'm going to rearrange things here a little bit, give myself some more room. Move this up here so I have more headroom right here, so I'm not rubbing on the top. I'm going to set this over here for now. That's probably going to go right back there anyhow. I got everything else set up. I'm going to slide this around me here. Put all my gear over here. So I've made 5 contacts so far. It's only 2:45, so I'm making contacts. I was right about the propane heater. It is too cold. When I took the propane tank out of my coat and put it on the heater, it worked. It was working great. It was drying out my pants. It was warming up the tent here. It was nice and cozy. And then the bottle started getting cold and it lost pressure and shut off. So I actually have both tanks in my coat right now. And my idea is when once one of the tanks warms up enough that I can put it back on here, I'm going to try stuffing it in this little pouch around it to insulate it a little bit, and hopefully it'll keep running and keep it warm. I'm going to check. I might have hand warmers in my pack here, and if I do, I might stick a hand warmer in here to help warm the bottle. I think that might work, but I'm going to keep making contacts. I'm probably not going to record a lot of audio just because it's Winterfield Day, and it would just be tons of contacts. So I'm going to keep working. The headset's working great. My little push to talk button here that I made out of a piece of PVC pipe was working. And yeah, it's definitely a lot nicer using the headset than it is working the hand mic. I'll look forward to using this during a POTA again. Like I said, this is a pretty inexpensive HAL headset compared to some of the other ones. But it's been working, and it's been fairly comfortable. So we'll see how it goes. Well, it's going. I've made 7 contacts. I did some more futzing around. I tried hand warmers, but I think the tanks are too cold at this point, so I have both tanks inside my coat. So it's chilling me down a little bit. I'm having a weird issue that I've never had before, and that is I'm losing cat control to the radio, and I'm wondering if it's because the radio's too cold at this point. But I'm wondering if the cold is affecting the radio, because I'm having rig control problems, and I've never had rig control. I just keep losing the rig control connection. I'm a little worried about my batteries freezing. I might try to move one of the batteries up and put it in my coat once I get the heater going and everything. I do have a little alcohol stove I could light to try to heat the tent up a little bit, but I don't think that'll help the batteries much because they're so low to the ground. Like I said, I can feel coldness on my feet. I do have the door pretty much closed, but it's not entirely closed. I do have a little bit of bourbon with me. I know when you're out in the cold, bourbon's supposed to make you, or dehydration's supposed to make you colder, but you know, I'm just in my backyard having some fun. So, but yep, gonna keep trying to make some contacts, and hopefully get the heater going here in a minute. And once I get it going, I'm hoping I can warm this tarp shelter up enough that it keeps the tanks warm and everything else, and just kind of does it perpetually, so I don't have to keep a tank inside my coat. But they are core. I mean, these are little steel tanks. I don't know if they make another blend of mixture that would be good for outdoors. But yeah, the little buddy heater is a fail at this point just because of the cold. Maybe if I had the tanks inside and they were nice and warm, and I brought them out and it heated up the tent before the tanks cooled down, maybe I wouldn't have an issue. But it's an issue right now, so there's not too much I can do about it. But try to deal with it, and that's what I'm doing. So yep, trying to have some fun. I am having fun though. I'm not trying to have fun. I am having fun. I love this bit of a challenge, and it's always fun when you do this kind of stuff. Well, I've made 15 contacts. My weather station over on the hill says that it is 20 degrees out right now. The heater isn't working. Again, another setback. I have the only thing that's cold right now is my feet because they're resting on the snow. I should get something to put underneath them to elevate them off the snow. But other than that, I'm comfortable. These gloves work. These are smart wool gloves, and they have touch fingers in them, and they work great. But I think I mentioned that they snag on everything Velcro. So all the Velcro straps in my pack, everything else, they just snag on everything. So it's just kind of sucky. I think to get the heater to work, I'm probably gonna have to take it in the house and let it sit, which I might do because I do want to be out here tonight. I know I am roughing it. I could just dig a hole in the snow out here and start a fire and light some wood. I might do that and just sit outside next to a fire. I don't know. We'll see. You probably can't see, but everything in here is covered in humidity. I took my heater into the house and the bottles in the house and let them warm up. Brought them back out, and within 10 or 15 minutes the bottles have frozen back up again to the point where they're not providing enough pressure for the buddy heater to keep warm. You would think the heater running would help keep the bottles warm, but it doesn't. There's just no going there. It's not working. But everything in here is coated in moisture, humidity. I'm using the TX500 the Lab 59 TX500 radio, and it's got moisture all over it. This laptop is just a standard laptop. It's not hardened in any way, and it's soaking wet. The screen's wet, the keyboard's wet. Everything's soaking wet from just running the heater for a little bit. Well, since my GoPro batteries are dead because of the weather, I'm going to try to use my phone here to give an update. I got the buddy heater going. I think there was some bad gas in the line, or maybe a little bit of condensation in the line. I got it lit, and it's been running now on low, which is more than enough for this small tarp shelter. So I'm actually very warm right now, very toasty. I made 38 contacts, and it is... let me see what time it is here. It's 8:20. I'm out of whiskey, which really sucks. But I've been working mostly 20 and 40. I don't have an antenna up for 80 right now, but I'm going to work a few more and see what I can do. I may try to put up my antenna for 80, or try to work some of the other bands. But I'm just going through the band, hunting and pouncing on calls. I did work, what was their call? Can 5 TR. I think that was them. That was K8 MRD down there in Texas. He said they were freezing. It was about 55 degrees. I think it's about 6 degrees here now, but I'm actually really warm. I had to turn my headlamp off here, I had to take off my hat and my neck gaiter, as you can see. But I'm still in the tent and still going to town. Like I said, 38 contacts. I'm having fun, roughing it out here in the little tiny tarp shelter here. I'm probably going to stay out for quite a while and make as many contacts as I can. Hey everyone, it's Tank Oscar Mike. It is Sunday. It's still Winterfield Day. It's about maybe 11 degrees, 10, 11 degrees outside. I guess they said the feels like temperature is 6 or something like that. But I was out last night until late. I got the buddy heater working again. I don't think it was the tanks. I think there was some moisture or something in the line that was frozen. Once I took the heater up into the house and let it sit up at the house for a while, then I went back up and got it, hooked up one of the tanks and ran it for a few minutes up at the house, brought it back down into the shelter and ran it. It sputtered for a little bit, and it actually sounded like it was bubbling, like something in the gas was bubbling, and then it cleared up, and after that it worked perfectly fine. And I think the problem is I used this for hunting season. I took it outside for hunting, but I didn't run it. It wasn't that cold out, and I wasn't in my my deer blind that long before I got a deer, so it sat in a blind for a really long time. Augie, no! Augie! And he's stealing wood out of my wood pile. and I think it got some moisture in the line or something like that. But after that, it was fine. So today, I'm going to try to set up a simple shelter, probably a snow plow. Not a snow plow, but a plow point shelter on a tree over here, and then run my end fed diagonally up into the big tree over here. The way I had the shelter set up, this is a 10 by 10 tarp, but the way I had it set up where you could enclose it more to keep the wind out really limited you on how much space there was inside the shelter. It's probably good for an emergency shelter or sleeping, but not for like working, trying to do stuff and move around. It's just too much, just not enough room. So I'm going to try to set up a plow point, maybe still try to use the heater just to provide a little bit of warmth on my hands and stuff while I operate, try to keep my battery and stuff warm. And yeah, just kind of hang out and try to have some fun out here and try to make some more contacts. I want to make more contacts. That's the main thing. And we'll see how it goes. Augie's going to stay out here with me for a while, but once I get set up, I'll probably send him inside so he's doesn't get too cold. But he loves being out, so it's kind of hard to send him in. But I think I'm going to set up off of this tree over here. It really doesn't have to be level since I'm just setting up a simple area. But I think if I just kind of clear this out here with my foot, I can set up the shelter here. I bent a lot of my tent stakes getting them out of the ground. You can see how I had to dig to get them out of the ground. I could have left them in there, but then I'd be worried about Augie kicking one or something like that. So I took them out of the ground, and a couple of them are already bent. The ground is frozen solid, so I brought a couple of big steel spikes with me to anchor the tent for today. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, and there you have a simple plow point shelter. It's probably one of the easiest shelters to set up. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that little bit of video I had there. So it was super cold for this winter field day, and I had a number of issues that I had to deal with. The first one, GoPro batteries. I have a GoPro Hero 7 Black, and the batteries died. Batteries that I actually kept in my pocket, in my coat, I took out, put in the GoPro, and they were dead in a very short amount of time. I kept trying to put the camera inside my pockets to keep it warm, and it didn't work. So the footage I got, I tried to get a lot more footage, and it just wasn't happening. So I know the new GoPro 10 you can actually buy. I've seen video reviews of winter batteries. They're like white batteries, are designed for extreme colds. But I don't have a GoPro 10, and I don't have $600, I think they are, to buy a GoPro 10. So it is what it is. Second issue was my my buddy Mr. Heater, little propane heater that uses 1 pound tanks. It sat in my garage, and my garage actually got very cold. It's not a heated garage, so it got very cold. And I thought it was a combination of issues. In the video I mentioned, I thought it was the propane tanks being too cold, and that was part of it. When they're cold, they do produce lower pressure. But the other part I discovered at the very end is the tanks, I really had to crank them down. When you screw them in, there's a pin that pushes a relief valve, a pressure valve in the top of the tank. And some of the new tanks I bought, made by Coleman, same as my old ones, I actually had to really crank them down, and it's probably due to the cold, to get it to release, open up that valve a little more to get more pressure. But once I figured that out, it ran and I really didn't have any issues. But I literally didn't figure that out until the last day. I did get it running on Saturday night when I was in a tent, and something happened. Now, I had been operating in a tent for a few hours without the heater, and I got the heater lit. And all of a sudden, there was this explosion of humidity inside the tent. I noticed it. I noticed like the screen was getting blurry, and there was actually water running down my laptop screen. So far, my laptop seems to be okay, but there was water running down the screen. I looked down at the radio, and the radio was completely covered with water, moisture. I mean, it was, everything in that place was completely saturated with moisture inside the tent. And then once the heater ran for 10 or 15 minutes, it all started to dry out, and it disappeared. But it was crazy. It was like a rainforest in the tent, in my tarp shelter for a little while. That was really crazy. The tarp I used, it was a 10 by 10 tarp, which I've used for rain shelters, lean-tos and stuff like that. The plow point, that's fine, it works great, and there's plenty of room. But when you close up one end like I did, both ends were closed up, so to keep the wind out, it becomes very small. I felt cramped. There wasn't quite enough room to work. I mean, it would be great for a survival shelter if you just wanted to go in there and sleep. But to actually do something like work the radios and stuff like that, it just felt cramped. I had plenty enough room where my head was. I had plenty of headroom, but my feet were almost sticking out the front of the tent, the front of the tarp, that is. And with the heater, that top peak of the tarp shelter was on fire. I was so hot, I had to take my hat off. I mean, my head was on fire and my feet were cold. Anything ground level, even though I had an insulating pad in my backpack, and I had my radio and stuff on top of that backpack, everything got super cold. My TX500, the screen on the TX500 got extremely sluggish. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but I was literally spinning the dial, changing frequencies. I'd get to a frequency that I wanted and I would stop, and then it would change and continue counting, catching up with what I was doing. So the cold affected the radio. The touchpad on my laptop started acting up. It just, I was touching it. I even took my gloves off and was still trying to use it, and it was just acting funny. So I think that had to do with the cold. Cat control for my radio. Cat control would just stop working. It just quit out. I tried everything to get it going again, and it just quit working. I'm pretty sure it was something to do with the cable getting cold. I took everything in overnight. I slept inside. I didn't sleep out in the tarp shelter. Sorry, I'm right here at the house. I don't feel like suffering that much. So I took everything inside, came out the next morning, was working. Cat control was working fine. I was out here for, I don't know, half hour to 45 minutes, and boom, cat control goes out again. So I think it was the cable, but it could have been something with the radio. It could have been something with the laptop. I didn't have other alternatives to test that out. Headlamp for working at night. I've tried lanterns before and stuff like that, but the problem with a lantern, you set it over here and you get real deep shadows across your gear. If you set it up above, hang it up above, it might be better. I have a Olight mini pre-run. It's an angled flashlight that clips into a headband to use as a headlamp. And it worked great. It goes down to 2 lumens, which it says it will last 4.5 days on 2 lumens. And it's just enough light so I can see what I'm doing without blinding me or getting severe reflections off anything. So the Olight pre-run, I've had that light for a while. It's real tiny, and I like it. It's been working great for me. These gloves. These are Smart Wool, merino wool gloves with touch fingers. They work great. When the gloves would dry out from the heat inside the tent, the touch would stop working on my laptop and my phone, and you have to lick the tip of the glove to get the touch sensitivity working again. So that was something. They're nice gloves, but I've discovered the problem with wool gloves is they snag on every piece of Velcro you have in your gear. So Velcro cable ties stick to the glove. The Velcro that's on my emergency kit sticks to the glove. And I'm seeing that it's snagging and pulling stuff off my glove. Augie! Augie! Come! Augie! You stay here. Sorry. Augie blends into the snow and the dark backgrounds. It's hard to see him. You stay here. Okay. So let me see if I missed anything. The plow point shelter worked great for Sunday. It kept the wind off me, and with the buddy heater back in the back corner of it, the little bit of heat that it was coming in, I mean, I know a lot of it was escaping out of the shelter, but it really does make a difference and help me out. The plow point with maybe, I really want to do, I probably should have done like a lean-to and just had a big fire pit out here. But we're not allowed to burn on Sundays in the area. I know a lot of people do, but Sundays and Mondays we're not supposed to burn here. So I try not to. Even recreational fires you're not supposed to burn, so I don't. Aluminum tent stakes. The ground's frozen. I had trouble getting my stakes in the ground and out of the ground. When I finally got them out, I've had these tent stakes for a couple of years, and I bent almost over half of them. They're mangled, probably won't be able to use them again. So you need stronger tent pegs. I could have tried to do snow anchors, but with it being so cold, the bottom layer of snow was solid ice and the top layer was so fluffy that I don't know how well a snow anchor would work. So I pounded them into the ground and I messed up my tent stake. So that's something, maybe a titanium nail type tent stake might be better. I might look into those. When I came out Sunday, I used big steel spikes, basically giant nails, to hold the tent down in the three places I did. The other thing I want to talk about was batteries. I saw a drop in voltage in my Bioenno battery that I normally don't see. Like, it really started to drop fast, and I think it was because the batteries were getting too cold and freezing. I was trying to keep them up off the snow. Like I said, I had a Nemo thermal foam mat down, and then I had that on top of my backpack. But again, everything, and if I have a picture, I'll try to put it in here, but it's really hard to see. The bottom, I want to say 18 inches of the tarp shelter was frozen. There was ice and condensation on it. I mean, it was frozen solid. You could see the frost line around the tent. Anything above that was thawed. And I think that's where like the thermocline inside the tent was. And unless you have a small table or something to lift things above that area, which wouldn't have fit in there, I don't think, that was a problem. So when I went back in, I let my batteries warm up for many hours before I plugged them back in to charge them up and make sure everything was okay. But I had a great time. I made 82 contacts. I think my points are like 168. I only worked 20 and 40 meters. I was just making enough contacts on those. I really wasn't hurting for contacts. I just kept spinning it down, finding other stations and workstations the whole way across the country. So I'm happy about that. I used my QRP end-fed antenna. I ran QRP power, of course, which is 10 watts for digital and single sideband and 5 watts for CW. So I ran 10 watts from the TX500, and it worked great. The HAL headset I used worked fantastic. That was a great addition. That's the first time I've used the headset in the field, and it worked great. I'll probably be taking that with me more often. Hopefully, like I said, it's one of the cheaper HAL headsets. It's the Pro Micro Dual. I think it was a little over $100. So we'll see how it lasts with me taking it out for POTA activations and everything else. I did notice, because it was so cold and I was breathing hot air, the foam on the microphone was definitely wet from the condensation coming out of my mouth during the contest. But I had a great time. and I look forward to next year. My club we've already secured our spot in one of the local parks for field day. We'll be at Mingo Creek. I think it's a state park, Mingo Creek State Park. Here in the area, and we're really looking forward to it. It's a big open field. There's really nothing there, no pavilion, everything else, so we'll have to provide all of our own shelters and everything else. So I'm really looking forward to that, and it should be a good time. I hope you had a great time for Winter Field Day, and it's time to work on getting my logs submitted. And yeah, so that was it. Again, I wish I could have used the trailer, but man, it is just too slick down here. It got up to 34 today. That's the warmest it's been in like a week. I think we're supposed to hit like 44 tomorrow, so everything's melting tonight, but it's already dropped back down below freezing, so the ice is getting all crusty and cold. So I got the snow blower going. We had the big snow, and of course the battery was dead, and it caused even though I was able to jump it and get it running, because the battery's dead, the safety mechanism wouldn't let me engage the blades. So it's working great now. So if we get another big snow, which we probably won't now since I fixed the snowblower, I used the ATV to plow, but when we first got this snow, the ATV was having a hard time pushing this amount of snow. I mean, it was really struggling. I was sliding everywhere. So, hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. This is Tango Oscar Mike, 73. Take care. Hey, Augie. Augie, come. Come. Augie, come. Come here. Come here. Come here. Hi, bud. Are you ready to go in? Are you ready to go in? Let's go. Let's go. Come on, let's go in.
Tango Oscar Mike,